Democrat Doug Jones scored a stunning upset in the Alabama Senate race and proclaimed a victory for common courtesy and decency as he defeated accused pedophile Roy Moore, but Moore immediately said there may be a recount. "Realize when the vote is this close, then it's not over," said Moore, who exasperated National Party establishment leaders with his run. "And we've still got to go by the rules about this recount provision. We also know that God is always in control," Moore told his supporters, who were left silent by at their party in Montgomery as the race got called for Jones. Jones defeated Moore by 50 to 48% of the vote, with 99% of precincts reporting. There were just under 21,000 votes separating the winner and the loser, out of 1.3 million cast. John Merrill, the Secretary of State of Alabama, said Moore can get a recount if he pays for it. An automatic recount occurs if the vote difference is less than 0.5% of the vote. "The people of Alabama have spoken tonight. They've made their voice heard loud and clear," he told CNN. Merrill said it would be highly unlikely for Jones not to be certified the winner. Moore complained in his speech, "Part of the problem with this campaign is we've been painted in an unfavorable and unfaithful light. We've been put in a hole, if you will," he said, referencing the Bible's Psalm 40 and speaking rapidly. "I waited patiently for the Lord. That's what we've got to do," Moore told his supporters, who include many evangelical voters. "And he inclined to me and heard my cry and brought us also out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet on the rock and established my goings and put a new song in our mouth. He then prays unto our God. Many shall see it, hear it, and shall be moved by that, if you will. And that's what we've got to do, is wait on God and let this process play out," Moore said. "But the votes are still coming in and we're looking at that," Moore added. "It's not over, and it's going to take some time. Thank you." Jones's victory in the deep red state came despite a final push by President Donald Trump, who campaigned in Pensacola and endorsed Moore despite a series of women who made accusations against him from when he was a prosecutor in the late 1970s and early 1980s. His win peeled back the Senate GOP's Republican majority to just 51 to 49, and dealt a blow to Trump, who weighed in with campaigning in nearby Florida, tweets and a robocall. "Tonight is a night for rejoicing," Moore told cheering supporters at his victory speech Tuesday evening. After a nasty race that featured multiple women accusing opponent Roy Moore of sexual misconduct, Jones told a Birmingham crowd, "We have work to do. We have work to do in this state to build those bridges within the state, to reach across with those that didn't vote for us to try to find that common ground. I'm pledging to do that tonight." After the divisive contest, Jones thanked his African American supporters, Hispanics, and even wished his Jewish friends a happy Hanukkah. That was a subtle rebuke to Moore's wife, who made a cringe-worthy election eve comment denying anti-Semitism by saying one of their lawyers was Jewish. As Dr. King liked to quote, "The moral arc of the universe is long, but it bends toward justice," he said, using a favorite line of President Obama's. "Tonight, in this time, in this place, you helped bend that moral arc a little closer to that justice," he said to applause. "Not only was it bent more, not only was it seemed truer, but you sent it right through the heart of the great state of Alabama in doing so," he said. "It was every community. You know, I keep hearing about the different communities in this state. The African American community, thank you. My friends in the Latino community, thank you. To all my Jewish friends, happy Hanukkah." At the end of the day, this entire race has been about dignity and respect, Jones said. "This campaign has been about the rule of law. This campaign has been about common courtesy and decency and making sure everyone in the state is gonna get a fair shake in life." The Associated Press called the Alabama Senate race for Doug Jones at 9:23 p.m. local time, as the Democrat bested Republican Roy Moore, an accused pedophile. For Jones, just having a D next to his name meant an extremely steep climb in a state that hadn't voted for a Democratic senator in 31 years, and that man, Senator Richard Shelby, later changed his affiliation to Republican. But Jones was buoyed by a mix of grit and chance, campaigning rapidly through the end, while Moore traveled out of state, haunted by accusations that he had pursued and molested teenagers while he was a man in his 30s. The election had become bigger than these two men, with President Trump's name, and also that of his former chief strategist Steve Bannon, also attached to Moore's name on the ballot. On the Democratic side, former President Obama, Vice President Joe Biden and potential 2020 candidate Senator Cory Booker, of New Jersey, had chimed in. President Trump tweeted his congratulations to Jones on a hard-fought victory, less than an hour after the race was called. "The write-in votes played a very big factor, but a win is a win," Trump added. "He people of Alabama are great, And the Republicans will have another shot at this seat in a very short period of time. It never ends. For most of the night, Moore held a comfortable lead in the deeply Republican state. At his Montgomery, Alabama, election night party, campaign staff flashed a giant version of the New York Times vote-tracking website onto a large screen, as audience's members would occasionally scream. "The numbers are only going to get higher for Judge Roy Moore," said a spokeswoman for Moore, Janet Porter, who was addressing the crowd at the Montgomery, Alabama event shortly before 8 p.m., an hour after the polls closed. Lurking below, however, were ominous signs that an upset, or a recount, could be on the horizon, with the New York Times live estimate predicting a Jones win for most of the night. "We're not calling this race," longtime Moore supporter Rich Hobson announced to the room as Jones's name was lit up blue on the giant version of the Times website. He then asked the audience to pray. Reactions from around the political universe came swiftly and were brutal to Bannon, who establishment Republicans cast as an interloper who cost them an easy Senate seat, making the map more challenging next year. A Republican strategist told DailyMail.com that Tuesday night will be Steve Bannon's political epitaph. "There's no way to see this other than a huge defeat for the GOP, and it's mostly because Bannon bamboozled the president with his Svengali pocket watch," the veteran of more than 20 congressional elections said. "Mitch McConnell will take some lumps," he added, "but this was all Bannon's doing." And political capital at Breitbart has just fallen through the floor at Thule. Breitbart News, a conservative website where Bannon is executive chairman, had pushed hard for more. "This is a brutal reminder that candidate quality matters regardless of where you are running," said Senate Leadership Fund President and CEO Stephen Law in a statement. "Not only did Steve Bannon cost us a critical Senate seat in one of the most Republican states in the country, but he also dragged the President of the United States into his fiasco." Senator Cory Gardner, who chairs the National Republican Senatorial Committee, which dropped Moore after the sexual misconduct allegations came out, made a Hail Mary pass and said he hoped Jones would truly represent Alabama by choosing to vote with the Senate Republican majority. Meanwhile, Democrats were ecstatic. Right out of the gate, the party's 2016 nominee Hillary Clinton tweeted her glee. "Tonight, Alabama voters elected a senator who'll make them proud," Clinton wrote. "And if Democrats can win in Alabama, we can, and must, compete everywhere. Onward," she wrote. Early exit polls suggested that Moore, an accused pedophile, might see some trouble in what's generally a deep red state. Alabama voters were split on their opinion of President Trump, Moore's most high-profile supporter, 48 to 48%, and held common views of the Republican and Democratic parties, with 44% viewing the GOP favorably and 43% seeing the Democrats positively. However, the exit polls showed good news for Moore too, with 55% saying the sexual misconduct allegations against him, from a number of Alabama women who said he preyed on them as teens, played only a minor factor in Alabamans' vote. At a polling location in Ozark, Alabama, 74-year-old Moore supporter Sue Sleeper predicted her guy was on track for a win. "He's not going to pull an upset," she told DailyMail.com of Jones. "He's going to win," she said of Moore. Pointing again to the Democratic hopeful, she pointed to the slew of television advertisements he had aired. "The other one, he was constantly irritating me on my TV," she said. "And on top of it, he's real hard to look at." However, Ozark resident Jerome Dudley, 69, was pulling for Jones. A political independent,